YouTubers and subscribers, RoseRed17 here, and here is Fairy Tail 100 Requests Volume 9, Chapters 73 to 81. And I have to say, this volume is wild. And what I mean by that, it starts off with Chapter 73, Party on a Moony Night, with Celine throwing a party with Natsu and Gray tied up, both shirtless, and also showing her true self of being a crazy chick who likes to satisfy herself. Celine and her women seem to be enjoying themselves around Natsu and Gray. And then afterwards, the boys got separated into different areas because of Celine's magic. Celine sent yokai after them to entertain herself and her women. But that doesn't stop Natsu from going on a rampage attacking the demons with no mercy. However, there is one yokai that he will fail to defeat, and that will be Yokai Lucy as a Nora-Oran, which is the Japanese phrase for a man-eating sea serpent. Much as I love this panel of Snake Lucy wrapping her body around Natsu like that, I am a little disappointed that Lucy has become the victim to the enemy's scheme. And it wasn't the first time I've seen that happen, but I shouldn't bring myself back to that nightmare fuel, and just focus on the next chapter, which is Chapter 74, Yokai Rurouni Oran, where we first see a battle between Natsu and Lucy after seeing some Nalu moments. It's not the Nalu kiss I was hoping for, but it's close enough. But I also want to point out that this fight sequence is kind of a disappointment. It's not because Natsu's getting walloped by Lucy and her boost of power being a yokai, but it also seems like Natsu is holding back, and once he gets serious, he falls for the oldest trick in the book. He truly believes the real Lucy has come back and doesn't want to hurt her. Really now? Even after you punched a clone of her and attacked the fake Happy along with the real one being possessed by the ghost dragon is no big deal. But when the real Lucy, who is now a demon snake lady with the ultimate power boost, he's going to hesitate? Even when he finally gets serious for real this time, he unlocked his lightning fire dragon mode but gets interrupted by someone familiar, and that someone is none other than Aquarius. This is where the chapter ends with Aquarius appearing out of nowhere, but before I get to the next chapter, I forgot to mention about Gray versus Yokai Wendy, who is the monster cat yokai looking creature, and along with Happy and Carla being giant tiger cats and started to attack Gray. Now on to Chapter 75, Memories of Water, which is so far the chapter I love the most in this volume, because not only that my girl Aquarius has returned to slap Lucy back to her senses, but she does it in both a violent and precious way. First, Aquarius does her normal routine whenever Lucy steps out of line. I know people think that Aquarius was just being mean to Lucy for no reason, but I don't think that's true. The reason I say this is because I can relate to the water spirit, having to put up with her master, but at the same time I wouldn't mind that much. Lucy is a good person, but she can also be a handful. And what stands out to me in this chapter is during this panel, when Aquarius was surprisingly hugging Lucy and helps her regain her memory. Now, as a Nalu fan, I would like to see Natsu trying to bring back Lucy through his own way, if you know what I mean. But I like this better. Aquarius has always been like a second mom to Lucy, and the bond they share is more official than Lucy has with Natsu. And as the memory flows back into Lucy, it shows all the moments between her and Aquarius. Even the scene where she broke the golden key, and that is what brought Lucy back to her state of mind, after she slapped her one last time before changing back. This chapter is both funny and precious, which is why I love it. And once Lucy and Aquarius had their reunion, it cuts to Gray and Wendy's battle, and thus the chapter ends there. Now in the next chapter, I was expecting a Gray versus Wendy battle, but instead I get a hilarious disappointment. Because first of all, Gray didn't want to harm Happy and Carla even though they were ready to kill him until Natsu came along to save him. That is like the third time Natsu attacked Happy, even though the poor cat did nothing wrong. I'm starting to feel sorry for him. But in Natsu's defense, he didn't know that was Happy until Gray said it. Now for the funny part of this chapter, is where Aquarius tricks Yokai Wendy into changing herself using her recovery magic to remove the yokai power from her body. Now on to the disappointed part of the chapter, and if you notice I put quotes around the word disappointed, it's because it's not a big deal for me, but it might be for other viewers. What I'm talking about is, of course, when Urza shows up in her yokai form, and then in seconds later, Wendy uses her magic to change her back. No fight, no battle, no Gray and Natsu join forces or passing their limbs to defeat Urza because Wendy beat him to it. And that just pissed off Celine. Now Now, I didn't really mind the quick pace because I wasn't interested in seeing the fight between Erza and her group, because logically she would have mopped the floor with them, especially with that crazy yokai power boost. Erza is already powerful as she is in her normal state, as Natsu or Gray couldn't hold a candle to her. And let's not forget, this is the woman who took down 100 monsters on her own, including S-Class beasts in the Grand Magic game. So Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Wendy wouldn't stand a chance. But I know there are some viewers that want to see that fight, but I pity those who will see it now. Now on to the ending of the chapter, we see Ferris and Toka reaching towards the Whiteout Village when they notice the place is destroyed and with a silhouette of a cliffhanger. That silhouette of a character turns out to be Suzaku, the Red Dragon from the Dragon Eaters, and he was summoned by the Great White Priestess to hunt down and kill Selene. The priestess discussed how Elentyr's power has become unstable because of Selene, and that the village was attacked by a giant hand that was shown a few chapters back. Also in this chapter, it shows Suzaku's strength and power as he defeated the creatures behind him without moving from his spot. Now back to Natsu and the group. They encounter Yuko herself as Wendy enchanted everyone with spiritual powers, and thus the chapter ends with thousands of yokais facing them. Now in the next chapter is the fight between Natsu's crew and the yokais. Once the battle begins, the crews gave everything they got. However, the more yokais they destroy, the more they come. Aquarius noticed they needed some extra help, and so she asked Lucy to summon all the celestial spirits she has. And with the power of Elantyr, that's exactly what she did. You go, girl! With the help of the Zodiacs and Lucy Stardust combination, the group has a better chance of winning, especially with Erza fighting against Yuko herself. And that, my friend, is what we see in the next chapter. While Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Wendy, and the spirits are fighting out the yokai, Erza is up against the main villain. Also in the middle of all this, Natsu managed to find his scarf on this thing and ends up chasing after it to get it back. I was wondering when he was gonna find it again. Wait, now that I think about it, Natsu never once mentioned anything about losing his scarf or yell at anybody about it. That just seems a bit out of character for him through my perspective view. But I will get back to Natsu after reviewing on the fight with Erza and Yuko, since this chapter is focused on that. Both girls have an unexpected transformation as Erza defeated Yuko with her 1,000 Arms armor. The chapter ends with Natsu getting his scarf back and running into Suzaku. Now here's a chapter that is all about Suzaku, the Red Dragon Slayer. And after bumping into Natsu, the two of them seem to have a conversation about the reason for both of them being there, and that is defeating Selene. The rest of the group managed to keep up to Natsu, and Suzaku politely introduced himself to the crew and told them that his goal into defeating Selene. Also, there's a side to Suzaku that seemed unexpected. Whenever he sees a naked person, he thinks it's funny, as you can clearly see him laughing on the ground just for looking at Happy for being naked. Funny little moment, but moving on. Suzaku bowed towards them goodbye as he mentioned he is against Fairy Tail, and after the description of each member, he realized that his enemies are right in front of him, and he announced himself as a member of the Debellos Guild as he attacks them, taking down Natsu and Erza. And what makes things worse? Selene shows up out of the blue as Lucy and Gray carry Natsu and Erza to safety during their retreat. But Selene ordered Hakune and Mimi to chase after them while she stays behind to fight Suzaku. Now, of course, in this next chapter is the fight between Selene and Suzaku, and I have to say, it looks pretty epic. However, the fight is not the only thing that seems to be in this chapter. During the chase of Natsu's group, Toka shows up to create a portal for them to jump through, so they ended up in the village with Ferris and the Great White Priestess. But then Mimi and Hakune ends up fighting them in a short amount of time. Apparently, Mimi has the ability to sniff out her foes, as Lucy asks if she's a Dragon Slayer, but according to Wendy, that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, the chapter ends with Natsu and Erza out of commission, with Wendy healing their injuries, a possible tag team fight with Lucy and Gray against Mimi and Hakune, and the moon getting closer to the surface due to Selene's wrath. That is the ending of the volume and also this video. Now, before ending this video completely, I remember saying something about Aquarius and her broken key. Seeing her again brought back some good memories. It also gave me a brainstorm about the whole key creating in another world. Back when her and Lucy having a conversation after Branch intended to kill Lucy because of the situation between their mothers, Aquarius told about her key being created somewhere else, and it got me thinking who or what is creating this key. First, I thought about what materials that the Zodiac keys are made of, and they're made of gold, right? So here's my brainstorm theory. What if the Zodiac key keys were made out of the scales of the gold dragon god, just like Natsu's scarf was made out of Ignil's dragon scales. I know it seems far-fetched, but it can be logical. There isn't much information on the gold dragon god Virinus, and the name is the only thing they know. I looked up that name and found an English-Japanese translation of the name Virinus and translated to the day Friday. Not sure why that dragon has the name Friday when all the other dragons have names with no meaning. But speaking about names, each first letter from the name of the dragon god spell out someone else's name, and I found this out during a Twitter post one day, and the name is from an acronym. First, let's part them in specific orders. There, the first dragon they encounter was Marphobia, and then there's Aldron, and then Ignia came in next, then Selene, and last one is Virinus, M-A-I-S-V. Now I know what you're all thinking. It doesn't spell anybody's name, it's just random letters. But if you take the V and place it in between the A and the I, you get the name Mavis. Crazy, don't you think? Somebody posted this acronym on Twitter and it blew my mind. I don't know if this was intentional, that there's a meaning in the story plot, or Mashima is just pulling our legs with a joke. Either way, it's a good acronym. Having the dragons named after the founder of the Fairy Tail Guild, good memento for the fans of the series. Now back to Aquarius. With my theory about the Zodiac keys being created from the scales of the Golden Dragon God, it is plausible for this to happen. I know some of you in the comments are gonna say that the Celestial Spirit King is the one that created the keys, but I'm not talking about who made them, it's the question of how and with what. Honestly, it's never been discovered from the original source, or Hiro Mashima's never disclosed this fact. But overall, I believe Mashima has a plan with Lucy discovering Aquarius' key, and it's also going to involve Brandish, since it was made clear that the two girls will clash with each other once again to claim the key. If you have any other ideas of how Lucy will claim Aquarius' key, please leave a comment down below. And also, what do you think of my theory? Do you think that the Zodiac keys are made out of the scales of the Gold Dragon God, just like Natsu's scarf was made out of the scales of Ignil? Or if you believe this is complete bogus or ridiculous, then I can understand. After all, it is just a theory. That is all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. RoseRed17 out.